going to
Sorry for
be
the inconvenience, sir. Due to some
okay.
technical problem, there is we could not able to see your slide. I just giving the brief introduction. Very good morning to Dr. Lee, sir, and good evening to all experts and audience here in India. It is indeed a proud privilege to have with us Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee is one of the world's foremost forensic scientists. Dr. Lee's work has made him landmark in modern day forensic sciences. He has been prominent player in many of most challenging cases of the last 50 years. Dr. Lee has worked with law enforcement agencies from 46 countries in helping to solve more than 8,000 cases. Dr. Lee's testimony is figured prominently in O.J. Simpson, Jason Williams, Peterson, Kennedy Smith's trials, and many cases. He was a consultant for more than 800 law enforcement and judicial agencies. Dr. Lee is founder of the Henry C. Lee Institute of Forensic Science, the director of Forensics Research and Training Center, and distinguished chairperson professor in forensic science of University of New Haven. He was the chief emeritus for the Connecticut State Police during 2000 to 2010 and was the Commissioner of Public Safety and State Police for the state of the Connecticut during 1998 to 2000 and has served as that state's chief criminalist and director of State Police Forensics Laboratory from 1978 to 2000. Dr. Lee was the driving force in establishing a modern state police communication system, school-based community police services, major crime investigation concepts, standard evidence collection systems, laboratory operation standard, and consolidated forensic science services in Connecticut. In 1975, Dr. Lee joined the University of New Haven, where he created the school's forensic science program. He has also taught as a professor at more than dozen universities, law schools, and medical schools. Dr. Lee has authored hundreds of articles in professional journal and has co-authored more than 40 books covering the areas such as DNA fingerprints, DNA, trace evidence, crime scenes investigation, crime scene reconstruction. He is the he is the author of some bestseller such as Famous Crime Revisited, Cracking Cases, The Science of Solving Crime, Blood Evidences, and Cracking War Cases. In addition, his textbooks such as Forensic Science, Physical Evidence, and Henry's Lee's Crime Scenes Handbook have been widely adopted in medical, legal, and forensic professions. He has appeared in many TV shows and movies. His television series Trace Evidence, Dr. Henry Lee File. Dr. Lee has been recipient of the numerous medals and awards, including the 1996 Medal of Justice from the Justice Foundation and the 1998 Lifetime Achievement Award from the Science and Engineering Association. He has also been the recipient of the Distinguished Criminalist Award from the American Academy of Forensic Sciences and the J. Donero Award from the International Associations of the Identification. And in the 1992 was elected as a Distinguished Fellow of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences. Dr. Lee was born in China and grew up in Taiwan. Dr. Lee came to the United States in 1965 and he earned his Bachelor of Science in Forensic Science from John Jay College in 1972. Dr. Lee continued his studies in biochemistry at New York University, where he earned the master degree in 74 and PhD degree in 75. He has also received a special training from the FBI Academy, ATF, RCMP, and other organizations. He is a recipient of 23 honorary degree, doctorate degree of science from the University of the New Haven, University of the Connecticut, Split University in Croatia, and from many other institutes of repute. Likewise, there are many more accolades that Dr. Lee has achieved over the years. The list is long, and personality of this magnitude will require entire session for introduction. I request to Dr. Lee to enlighten us with his insightful knowledge in the domain of forensic science. I hand over the meet to him. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for this introduction. I want to thank um, Indian National Forensic Science University, Dr. Baya, and your invitation to give this lecture. Today, I'm going to talk about investigation of child abuse. I put together 250 slides showing the medical, forensic, investigation aspect of child abuse in the United States. Unfortunately, some technical problem, you were not able to see my PowerPoint. But we all know family violence and child abuse is a serious global issue. Every year, approximately 10 million cases involving family violence. 75% of those cases are women as a victim, but do have 1/4, which means 25% victims are men. 3 million children around the world physically, sexually abused every year. Those cases, a lot of remain unsolved. In the United States, they estimate 18% of the child were abused physically, mentally, or verbally abused. Approximately 1,500 children die due to abuse ignored. The investigation of child abuse, usually we found the following 9 different type of situation. First one, homicide due to physical abuse. The second is injury due to physical abuse. The third, sexual abuse or sexual assault. The fourth, physical neglect. The fifth, verbal abuse. The sixth, that's a newer one, is abuse through internet or social media abuse. The seventh, psychological or emotional abuse. Them have a special category with stranger, child pedophile, or child pornography that also become a serious problem in the United States. Around the world, they also have a special category with child labor, child soldier, or child trafficking. When you investigate child abuse, usually we look at the injury. A child death is caused by accident or natural or due to physical abuse, which is homicide. So the location of the injury, number of the injury, condition of the injury become an important factor for forensic scientists to investigate. Another type of a child homicide involving abortion, illegal abortion, abandonment of the babies. There are many cases happen. Most of those cases are parents or relative of the mother to help out. So to investigate those child homicide, most likely the suspect is within the family, except those few child predator cases. So the crime scene can give us important clue. So forensic scientists and investigator will have to look at whether or not the scene is the primary scene, which means the abuse was happening in that location, or the secondary scene, the body was found, the suspect transported the body to a different location. Recently, I have some study, because in the United States, a lot of disagreement about in the medical legal field regards to the Creutzfeldt syndrome or neglect, abuse is a homicide or accident death. So that's the definition of the law. As far as forensic scientists we concerned, doesn't matter what situation, we have to report all the fact and document all the injury. The injury, usually physical abuse, the injury predominate in the arm, neck, or chest area. I have so many slides to show you. Unfortunately, you cannot hear or cannot see. Most of the physical indicator will look at the injury is posterior of the body. All those injuries form a certain pattern. Many times occur in cluster. The fourth one, we look at a different variety stage of healing. That gives us a clue for the history of a physical abuse. Most of the injury in the front form a certain pattern, occur in cluster, and different degree of healing. This slide actually shows a case happened in Chicago. A 4-year-old child, the body was found in a sewer system, naked. Chicago District Attorney and Police Chief asked me to assist. When we look at the injury, look at the trace evidence on the body, we know that's a secondary scene. We was able to trace to the house. The parents say, middle of the night, somebody abduct the child. So they don't know anything. However, when we examine the injury, we see cluster of different patterns, different age of healing. That shows the history of physical abuse. We was able to identify those patterns, look at the object. For example, belt, baseball bat was used to beat up the child. Turn out this child is a stepchild of the husband. That's the mother's second marriage. And later, the mother became a witness, testify. The suspect was convicted. So when you look at the pattern, look at the black eye, scratches or bite mark, loose teeth, lip, internal bleeding. Then when you look at the neck area, exam. So with those indicators can help you find some indication. One of the area we all, based on experience, really very little absolute test for age of contusion. Usually it start red, then red-blue, the color become purple, the next stage become blue and brown, then the injury become green and brown, green and yellow, yellow and brown, tan, yellow, finally heal. So if you see a different coloration of the injury on different body part, then you can say of age, different stage of the injury. Here are a couple slides shows cases with different color of injury. As an investigator, you should document the color, the injury with a color chart. Then you can compare. The next thing, as I indicated, we look at the cluster. What's the area in the buttock or in the chest, on the neck, and check for pattern. For example, here I'm showing a baby's buttock. You see the cluster of injury of different objects, including some with round pattern, some with linear, some with construction of your teepee. That shows could be a bill, could be a ruler, and different object applied to the skin surface. Other with a lot of repeated pattern, which means maybe use one kind of instrument, repeated assault the child. Here I have a couple very interesting slides with special pattern. Unfortunately, you cannot see. Initially, I want you guys to look at that slide to tell me what object create that pattern. For example, fingernail, For example, hanger. The hanger used to hang clothes. People use that. A stick or a wire with a loop. One of the very special one is a potato masher. In United States, mother usually cook the potato with a masher, and sometimes the kids doesn't listen to mother. We just use the potato masher cooking utensil to inflict the injury. One of the case we investigate is in Connecticut, in Bridgeport. That 6 years old boy was sent to a hospital emergency. He was on life support for 40 some days, finally gave up. The physician found a lot of injury, exterior injury, notified the police. Police subsequently contact us and the medical examiner. We look at his body. We found 214 different injuries, covered the whole body. Also important is taking X-ray to see any fracture of bone or healing of the old fracture. That also can give you a clue of additional injury, especially the arm and leg, the rib area. So all those different degrees of healing give us a very important evidence. We was able to document, present to the court. The suspect, the stepfather, now served 27 years of terms. Some of the type of injury, for example, cigarette burn. Many times in the U.S., they use cigarette, but that's why photograph is very important because it shows the repeat pattern. We have a couple pictures looking like a cigarette, but much bigger, turn out to be cigar because some of the people in the U.S. smoke cigar. They inflict the injury, especially male, female, sex part area. Usually we see the burning, torture. So the burn, actually, we investigate 4 different type of burn mark. The first one called immersion burn. The second one, cigarette burn. The third one, open fire burn. The fourth one, dry burn. The fifth one, rope burn. The immersion burn, which basically the child was put in a very hot water. Many times the child taker or babysitter try to bath the baby. The water, they did not test the temperature, just put the baby into the water. So the baby, the lower extremity usually get burned. Or sometimes older boy, because the water, they play with the hot water. And so most likely the hand or the feet get burned. Cigarette burn, I already talked about. Open fire, many times because they play matches or when mother cooking, father was doing housework, and the child just happened upset the parents or relative, they use the fire. Dry burn, usually not involved in fire and or water. Is, for example, in winter in U.S. it's very hot, very cold. So you have a hot plate. The child may touch the stove or touch the hot plate, or during the summer, the parents left the child in a car, the window locked, because the hot weather, they got burned, touched the metal part. The rope burn, basically, discipline with a rope, you cause the burn. There are an additional one. It's not in this category, but also a burn called chemical burn. Chemical burn, many times the parents use cleaning reagent or other chemical, or they don't know and spill on a child, or child play did not know what chemical and caused the chemical burn. So those cases in U.S. also consider child abuse. The dry burn, one of the most common one, is the iron. The parents iron the clothes, and the kids or children did not listen. They just used the iron and spur a moment. And so usually it's the front of the body or arm, and once in a while, the face. Here, a lot of slides showing you different type of burn. So the next group of child abuse injury involving drug, poison, alcohol, noxious material, cleaning reagent, cooking, grease, candle wax. Many times, because they did not put away the medicine or alcohol, the child can reach. And when parents not home, they start eating, injection, eating, and either die or severely injured. Some because the parents was on drug or alcohol, complete out of conscious, the child just moving around and eating those. So every year have so many children die. We even have cases, the mother put some narcotic in the milk bottle, give the child to stop the child crying. Here are some of the examples of those chemical abuse. The next category is sexual abuse. Sexual abuse in the United States, we have many this type of cases. Estimate probably about 500,000 those cases happen. The most importantly, recent year is Boys Club, Boy Scout. The counselor abused the boy or girl scouts. Church, the priest abused the altar boy. Then high school teacher or elements to school teacher, even college a teacher abused the student. There are so many case after case. For example, Boy Scout just yesterday, they settled for their litigation for almost $300 million US. And of course, recently, many church settled for that too. Those abuse case, sexual abuse of the children. Those cases, investigation, the first the teacher or counselor or parents should look at the general appearance of the children. Usually, when a child starts sexual abuse, they become withdraw, they change. So, if the parents or teacher finds some children start have a general appearance change, also emotional status change, that is an indicator. They should report to police, and forensic psychologists should interview those children and try to find out. And many times, because the emotional withdrawal, they don't want to communicate. They start hiding in the corner. They start wear unfitted clothes and doesn't take care of the appearance anymore. Also, you should look for some degree of injury, especially the arm and the lips area. So should consult the physician, medical examiner, also odontologist. Document those injuries and collect rape kit, sent to the laboratory to do seminal evidence analysis, also DNA. In addition, the clothes from the child, unwashed clothes or linen, bedsheet, should also look for blood, for hairs, for semen material. In addition, should have gynecologists to examine the vagina area, the sex part, to see internal injury, try to document those, report, so we can do further study. The biological evidence basically will look for tears, urine, thread, the nail, the tissue, and look at the teeth, the blood, semen, hair, bone, all those. With the DNA now, we can do much more testing. So that's collect kit. They are special rape collect kit for children, for the victim. Trace evidence is also important. We have quite a few cases with lubricant, Vaseline. So that gives the investigator clue. Hairs and fibers also can use to link to the suspect. The next type of cyber abuse, they are basically come from three different sources. One type is child predator. There are many grown-up people, they try to protect and try to link, use social media to abuse the child, especially many teenagers fall into trap. The second type is the bullying abuse. Those could be a big, little bigger kid or classmate. Another type called cyber stalker. They stalk and look at. So with all those, we have to report, and the police, law enforcement have special unit to take care this e-crime. And e-crime evidence, basically, you look at a computer, cell phone, social media, look at the history of search. Just last week, a teacher and use cyber technique and almost 27 students have sex. And so many of those cases is from a relative or the teachers. So the next category called sign of neglect. Sign of neglect, it's a form of abuse because the parents doesn't take care. The kids did not give enough food, so malnutrition, or do not take the care of the kids' healthy and welfare. Usually, the school teacher should look at if hair have a lot of lice or face have a lot of insect bite, and the clothing is dirty, and so that usually indicator. So the school counselor should report to the law enforcement. And I have so many cases I want to show you. When we went to the child's family, found out their house just like a garbage dump. All this garbage, the refrigerator, it's the rat, the insect is in the house. The parents most are single parents. Most of the time they divorce, or the boyfriend, husband just left. The mother have to take care 3 to 5 babies, so they just let them by themselves. So those cases basically classify as physical neglect. Physical neglect, we usually look at the scene, look at the history, because many are on social welfare, government subsidies. So you have to look at what kind of food, or they buying alcohol or cigarette, did not buy the food, and whether or not the mother used drug. The next category called trafficking. According to United Nations, there are 600,000 to 800,000 cases global human trafficking per year, and almost 25% to 30% are child. So those human trafficking, the majority is teenager, young woman, but do have a quarter involving child. The victim usually become a victim of pornography or sexual exploitation, sex tourism, prostitute, child sex act, or child labor, or child soldiers. Because the time, we're going to skip some of those discussion. Just one category, child pornography. In United States, pornography is legal. Anybody can possess watching the pornography in your own computer, your own home. You can even purchase when you check into a hotel. They even have that closed circuit TV. But child pornography is illegal. However, many of the sex predators, they like child pornography. So before, in my laboratory, we have a special unit to investigate child pornography. Usually, the source of child pornography, the production predominate from a foreign country or in a remote area in United States. And the consumer is cross-border. We even have professors from the college. We have priests. We have a big company CEO. So those punishment pretty high if you just watching pornography. They probably give you about 10 years or less. If you distribute or you make child pornography, usually 20, 30 years. I have a couple of examples I was planning to show you. So in general, investigate child abuse case. It's a teamwork. We have to involve parents, social workers, school teachers, police, and forensic scientists. Unless we work together, very difficult to stop this child abuse. There are many books and papers published on this topic area. First, we have to resolve domestic violence of parents, because domestic violence usually transfer those violence to the kids. So we have to enhance the quality of a medical care. We have to provide safety and for the being abused to parents and the kids. We have to ensure the victim receive referred confidential service. Have to recognize the injury, the wound is due to the abuse. And have to collect those evidence, document those evidence, then analyze those evidence. Also have to provide a clear direction to social care workers, to health care provider, and to law enforcement how to conduct investigation, how to report those issues to law enforcement. So many states have those laws. So I guess in India, there must be laws guarding of those investigation. So we have to go through the same forensic investigation, start with recognition. The second stage, assessment. The third stage, examination. the fourth stage, documentation, the fifth stage, referring, the next stage, reporting. In other words, any case, any evidence come to us regard to child abuse, the first thing we have to recognize that's due to domestic or child abuse. Then you have to assess this injury, this condition is related to abuse. You don't want to falsely accuse somebody abuse. If this is just an accident, isolate the accident because child play, careless. Then conduct examination, documentation. If something beyond your area of expertise, refer to other expert, other scientists to help. So, because the time and because the limitation, we're going to skip the rest of the cases, which I plan to show you, to go to loss. Most of the abuser, based on our experience, the emotional disturbance, the sociopath personality. Most abuser, they're immature. Not necessarily they're young. The age maybe already adult, but emotionally they're immature. They're egoistic. They're narcissistic. They feel angry, depressed, improvidence. So that's the general characteristics of an abuser. Therefore, today we'll face a major crisis with family, domestic violence, and child abuse. The reason why this increase, because the social pressure, economic pressure, added them create stress. Some due to the culture differences. Some because the family problem. All those start combined become a crisis. When that crisis was not taken care, no intervention, then the people become further depression, emotionally, they feel depressed, they become reactive. First, the confrontation between parents, between child. Then from confrontation become verbal. From the verbal, many times walk out, they just leave. Now the family even more, have more stress, more depressed, more stress. Sometimes it become a physical confrontation. The result of those confrontation become violence, because that violence become an abuse situation. To solve this, again, we need a systematic, complete approach with the social worker, with the family worker, with the school, with the scientists, medical field, forensic field, police, law enforcement, work together. Thank you very much for your time. And it's 3 minutes over. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Trisha.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Phoebe.
Okay.
Hello.
Sorry.
Thank you, sir, for
No, sir.
giving us your time and sharing your sparking knowledge for the future of
Yeah.
forensic science.
Sure,
This will
sure.
surely help the students and forensic fraternity to know more about the child abuse.
Okay.
Thank you once again.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir,
Take
but
care.
it is
Okay.
it is our earnest appeal that you visit our city at an earliest
Okay.
as an emirate. Yeah.
Sure. Hope
Soon
you
we will,
have chance to visit us.
yes,
Come to
soon we
our
will
university.
sending you an official invitation. Very soon.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. बंद कर दो